Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 39 of an Earful podcast. This episode's guest is Darren Smith of Funeral for a Friend and the 501s.
Yeah, so we talk about the Funeral of a Friend comeback last year, the reunion tour that they did. We talk on about horrors, pet peeves as usual, and yeah, just listen to it all and enjoy.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, you should go check out our friends at Karma Radio on SoundCloud and Just a Girl podcast. And if you just like our voices, we've got a shitload of other episodes to go listen to. If you could leave a review, that's great. Enjoy the episode.
Enjoy.
So, how's lockdown been so far? I know this is the typical question we're going to start with, but we're going to go straight into it, and we're going to say, what have you been up to over lockdown?
Just kind of get it out the way now.
That's it.
Just get it gone. Get it gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you know what? Kind of it was okay and quite nice to begin with. But then as time kind of went on, started to get fairly bored and a bit kind of restless of not being able to do certain things and that sort of thing. I mean, it began with a almost holiday kind of feel to it. I thought, but that soon sort of passed, I think, and more and more people became pretty annoyed and kind of and infuriated by how long it was kind of going on for and whatever. Yeah, but hey, if it keeps kind of everybody safe and that sort of thing, that's what kind of matters most, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I've had the same experience where I was like, 2 weeks off work, it'll be over. Breeze be over in 2 weeks, be fine, go back to work, everything's as normal, can carry on with the year as it was meant to be. No.
No.
And
it kind of threw a lot of plans out, So I've just kind of been passing time by kind of doing some music here and there and writing and trying to kind of do what I could within the constraints of everything, I suppose.
It's sort of forced everyone to adapt differently to this new life. Have you changed anything, or have you started doing something you never used to because of it?
Wearing a mask and gloves.
Well, yeah.
Never usually went out kind of in those things. No. No, I to be honest, kind of, it has kind of, made people, I think, appreciate a lot of things as well. As much as change kind of habits and change kind of various things within their life. I think they, sort of started to appreciate kind of, maybe elements of their family that they kind of maybe don't see very often or kind of don't bother too much with, or do you know what I mean? And they're more kind of expansive family, perhaps, but so I think it's kind of, and made people appreciate their freedom a lot more, perhaps, as well,
100%. I mean, like when it first started, I was trying my best to get out of the household because you just go a bit crazy after a while, don't you? Like repeating the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day all over again. And then
it is, man. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and like I just mentioned, it gets pretty boring and pretty kind of tedious to just kind of do the same kind of things over and over, and then I don't know, dream of doing a lot of things that you used to do.
Mm-hmm. So have you been
hard?
Yeah, have you been writing a lot as well then, like during?
Quite a bit. Yeah, just putting sort of ideas together, and I guess kind of that's one of the advantages of digital recording and that sort of thing is
100%.
Is that we're able to kind of put together ideas, send them to each other, and that sort of stuff, and so it's been kind of a good bit of that going on, and so I've kind of probably done more of that than I maybe was doing kind of prior to it,
Has it always been the case where you would write and send things back and forth to one another, or is it usually in a room together?
A little bit of both, I suppose. Previously regarding the 501s, that is anyway. I mean, it's always been a case of an idea might kind of be there, and we'll jam it out kind of in the rehearsal room or something. And then other times, it might be a case of writing an idea, but not necessarily, I might kind of send a demo to the guys or something like that. But then generally they perhaps come down to kind of, to lay some other ideas on top of what I've done or something along those lines,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mixture, and Shane, the singer, who plays guitar too, likewise, he kind of usually record something pretty quick into his phone, send that to me, and then maybe I'd kind of drop that into kind of Logic or GarageBand or something, and then kind of write to that.
It's good that you do both though, because like with creativity, it just, as soon as it hits you, you've got to get it down, otherwise it's going to disappear very quickly. So I know like bands like to be in a room together, but it's nice that you do both.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't necessarily think you always come up with your best ideas or your best kind of, maybe, there's an idea there and you may be trying to write some sort of melody or something like that. I don't necessarily think or personally anyway, I always come up with my best sort of stuff on the spot,
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to go away with something, with a piece of music or a song kind of, even in its rawest form, and take that and kind of, I don't know kind of, super in-depth amount of music theory, but I kind of know enough to, to write and know kind of, how to kind of put which scales over kind of what chords and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So I like to go away a little bit and analyze perhaps what the music is, and then kind of that can sometimes kind of help me with, creating a better melody than I would, on the spot, I guess.
So
I
think. Oh, go on. I'm
gonna say, I guess like sometimes like it can get a bit too much, because obviously like you're constantly repeating like this like cycle over and over where you like backtracking yourself, but then you're going back over the same thing and like writing over it again. And I bet you it gets to a point where like you've thought it too much. Whereas like obviously usually you would have got that together, like shown the other guys, and then maybe gone to the studio, and then you get the like the producers like input or whatever. But have you ever found it that way before?
Yeah, I guess you can kind of, over egg the pudding, as they kind of, as they say, So yeah, I mean, it's a question of knowing where to kind of draw the line and kind of, and I think everybody, quality surveys their own writing or their own music and their songs,
Yeah.
So I mean, that quality control over that stuff, sometimes can get a bit kind of maybe too much, and you. I don't know, you're nitpicking over things, to an extent where it ends up, like you say, going kind of too far the other way, where you've kind of overanalyzed it, over kind of complicated things, and lost the, I don't know, the original raw kind of idea or the original feel of what drew you to liking the idea in the first place.
Yeah. What was you saying, Matt, anyway?
I was just going to mention, obviously, I can see that PRS, lovely PRS to your side.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I just was thinking of this just before we went on this chat, was that the way I actually discovered Funeral for a Friend wasn't actually through the music; it was through Total Guitar, where you was featured with your PRS.
Oh, okay.
At that point, I was like so into like with PRS, like I'm going to get a PRS one day, and I actually have. But anyway, but I remember that you were like one of the substantial people, apart from like say Alter Bridge or something like that, who had a PRS guitar, because it was so scarce at one point in the actual scene, and then they had that massive spurt, and then it went down to like minimal amounts of people having PRSs, like it was like some rare fan club to be having playing this certain brand and all that. I just remember the connotation that a PRS guitar with the double cut is being one of your things, and that's how I got into Funeral for a Friend.
That's it's a custom 22. So and that was the first one I had. I think it's not that one. That's not the first one, sorry, but a custom 22 was the first I had, which is the bluey kind of green turquoise kind of, or teal, I think is the correct kind of color for it. yeah, I played that one for years, and kind of, it's pretty road worn and pretty battered, to be honest now. But yeah, I had that as my first one. Absolutely loved it. Just kind of loved the way they play, and yeah, and I mean, there was a time kind of, way back before kind of Funeral where, I loved kind of the look of Paul Reed Smith, but never ever did I kind of imagine I'd be able to kind of have one, afford one or whatever, you know what I mean? It was that dream guitar. So when I kind of, I did, yeah, it was kind of, yeah, pretty amazing. And yeah, and I kind of fell in love with them a bit, and yeah, and played them pretty much throughout the majority of my time with Funeral.
Yeah, so I was going to say that it was pretty much one of the main like connotations I have with Funeral is the fact that there was PRS guitars used. Like when I think Paul Reed Smith and anything, apart from like the mainline artists that now use them, Funeral is one of the main things that reminds me of that brand. So I think it's quite a nice little touch to your music that is related to like a certain brand. Did you ever consider like that you'd be thought of in terms of like when someone thinks of like a guitar brand that you be one of the people? Like I find it like a really bizarre situation to be in, that someone thinks of a brand and then they think of you as a guitarist for that.
Yeah, no, I never kind of saw myself as, I don't know, that person to advertise those guitars, because there's so many kind of amazing players that play them, and their catalog of artists and that kind of thing is huge. So I never figured I'd kind of, I'd come in any kind of list of people kind of, I don't know, connected to them, or initially, like I said, even kind of having the opportunity to play them, to be honest. But yeah, but I felt super proud that kind of I played them, had an endorsement with them, and had that opportunity, but yeah, it's slightly kind of surreal to kind of, I don't know, even look on the Paul Reed Smith artist list and kind of see your name on that. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it's a bit crazy.
Madness. So it was going back to way when Funeral started. So I was looking online before, and it's noted that Funeral is one of the most distinct and highest selling UK bands from the past 20 years.
Oh, okay.
Well, apparently so.
Yeah. Some of this stuff is going to be news to me for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's statistics and that, a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't. Yeah, I've not tended to look into a lot of the time, I suppose.
Yeah. So just nutshell, it's saying that Funeral for a Friend is one of like the main noted UK bands to come out in the past 20 years. So going back to when Funeral Way started, what was the music scene like?
It was pretty good. Yeah, it was, I mean, in Wales in general, kind of, there was plenty of bands kind of around, and and all the members of Funeral, came from other bands within that scene. Really, that a lot of the bands were kind of falling apart in some ways, with people going off to university, or people just kind of having the guts full of kind of doing it, I guess. Am I allowed to swear on this or not?
Yeah,
go for it.
Go for it.
Cool. I always tend to ask that just in case. But yeah, so there was a lot of kind of people sort of coming out of some of those bands or looking for new members. And one of the guys down in Bridgend had the idea of picking out some of these people that were in sort of slightly fragmented bands, myself being one of them, and putting together kind of a band of people he knew were pretty serious about kind of wanting to achieve something with music, I guess. But there was plenty of other strong bands around, and almost a burgeoning kind of heavier scene, I guess. Kind of I mean, prior to it, you had kind of the Stereophonics, March Street Preachers, and some of those bands, Super Furry Animals and Feeder and stuff like that. You had that scene, which was kind of more the Britpop indie sort of scene, I suppose. And then you had the Lost Prophets, then kind of, I suppose, kind of made an initial kind of nudge into heavier music, and I suppose tagged originally as sort of that new metal kind of that was starting to fade out a bit,
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah, and you know, there was plenty of other bands kind of, you know, floating around, you know, great bands, and I think kind of when we came together, then we were fortunate enough to kind of, you know, to have things happen pretty quickly, and we ended up almost being seen as a kind of a spearhead of that slight sort of movement, I suppose, you know, out of South Wales.
That's cool.
With, you know, connected, I suppose, to bands like
Yeah.
Dopamine, Attack Attack, the Blackout, Kids in Glass Houses.
Yeah, you can
kind
see the influence that you paved for those other bands as well.
Yeah, even though kind of, you know, a lot of those bands were around at the time, some of them in different kind of guises maybe, but like I say, we seem to be, you know, pretty fortunate to kind of have stuff happen fairly quickly, and we pushed that kind of sound that we had, not a contrived sound at all, you know. It was kind of a natural kind of the way kind of we came together, and kind of our influences, you know, jointly, and also kind of our own individual kind of influences kind of, you know, formed our sound really.
Yeah.
And that seemed to just really kind of sit well, and be maybe something people were looking for, a new sound, a new kind of a new vibe, and a new movement of kind of, I suppose, heavier music that kind of people were kind of looking towards.
It was definitely a lot more popular. That is like, especially in the like mid 2000s, a lot of bands were coming out of Wales as well. Like,
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
were the pioneers as well, like coming out of that. And obviously, you were always the like front face of like Kerrang and everything. It's crazy.
yeah, and it was a, you know, like I say, kind of a very surreal kind of, you know, experience, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, and we felt, you know, pretty fortunate that you know, to spearhead that sort of movement in a way, and felt kind of really proud of you know, of all the kind of the other Welsh bands that were kind of breaking through then, and you know, we'd quite often kind of take them on tour with us, and you'd you know, usually find at least one Welsh band on, you know, on our touring bill, you know. So yeah, you know, it was pretty supportive with the majority of the Welsh kind of bands, and that scene that kind of, you know, I suppose kind of that began then.
Yeah. Is it like a big community of bands then? Like, I know, like you were saying, then a lot of bands coming out of Wales, and you was all supporting each other. Did it feel like a big community when it came to like touring?
Yeah, it did to a certain degree. I mean, obviously, you know, you still have, you know, a slight element, you know, of competitiveness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, there is that, you know, community edge to it as well. Do you know what I mean? A majority of us kind of knew each other from previous bands, or even kind of, you know, playing local shows and stuff like that. I mean, you know, the Bullet for My Valentine guys, you know, they kind of broke through, I guess, kind of one of the first to break through after us, perhaps. And,
Yeah.
you know, and we knew some of those guys. And yes, so, you know, there was an element of competitiveness, you know, here and there with some bands, but on the whole, you know, it was still, you know, quite a strong kind of community sort of vibe to it, and a supportive vibe of one another, you know.
That's important. I think that like little bit of competitiveness is very important to like push one another. But
Yeah, because
sometimes
yeah,
it can
you know,
overtake it, can't it?
it can. Yeah, I mean, but you know, inevitably, you know, in all, you know, avenues and walks of life, you know, the competitive kind of angles to things drives you on to be perhaps better, work harder, kind of, you know, right.
Yeah.
In this, you know, in comparative kind of terms of what we were doing, you know, write better songs, kind of be better musicians, and kind of put on better kind of more exciting, you know, energetic shows, I suppose.
No,
How do
absolutely.
you feel about the community now, the music scene you've got there? Because I can think of a handful of bands that are still striving right now from South Wales and succeeding. So it seems like that community and that pushing one another in positive attitude around the music industry has continued.
Yeah, I think it has. It did seem to kind of perhaps fade out a little. After I'd say that movement of bands that we were part of. I think perhaps it did kind of fade out a little for a while. But the last few years, there's been some really strong bands kind of, coming through, Holding Absence being one of them,
Yeah.
that are doing great. And there's a whole number of other bands that kind of, that it's almost kind of starting that wave maybe again,
Yeah.
which
It's
is
to be that way.
important. Yeah. And it's great to see, and yeah, it's, you want kind of, from a patriotic kind of standpoint, maybe that you want Wales to always have great bands and great music. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know, in some ways, Wales is renowned for kind of, singing and kind of, and music and stuff like that. And, so you always kind of want that to be the case, to have,
Continue.
yeah, good stuff coming out of Wales. Always.
In the blood. In the blood.
long may we reign.
Like I said, there's something in the water. Every time I speak to someone from Wales, I feel positive and happy after the chat. There's something about good music and like positive people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think people have stopped drinking the bottled water down, so that they're drinking the natural water again. That's why it's coming back. Maybe
That's the trick.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Leave the Evian. Don't leave that side.
So I'm on a Aldi's own brand.
Oh, hey, so am I.
Hey.
Snap.
Jesus.
Absolutely.
Do you ever think we'd be talking about bottled water from Aldi on the podcast? I feel like we've treaded new grounds. I feel like we've gone somewhere.
There's a first time for everything. You know what I mean? That's what I've become now. I'm a connoisseur of water. Connoisseur of supermarket water. Yeah.
Oh man.
Add it onto rolls. That would be what you've done in the
Top tier water. We'll need a top 5 from you then. After this podcast of your favourite waters.
Okay, right. Yeah.
That'll be our peak.
That's a tough one. I've tasted a lot.
I'll give you some time to have a think. So, obviously, you had the reunion tour not long ago. How was that to step back in that role and feel, obviously you were doing it towards a close friend to the band. So I imagine it was very emotional straight away.
It was, yeah. I mean, Stewart Brothers was, as has been kind of mentioned and described by kind of, most of us, if not all of us within the band, how close he was. He was family, to the band in a sense. He was with us from the very beginning, and so yeah, he was such an important, guy to us and a great character that kind of was around, like I say, since the early days, and did some, some great stuff to help, grow the Funeral for a Friend name in a sense, and really kind of pushed us out there to kind of gain a bigger fan base in a way. He was a very positive kind of element to the growth of the band from early days. So we wanted to kind of do what we could to help, really, and playing some shows seemed like the answer to kind of helping him and his family, and raising kind of a decent amount of money to help the family and his kids and his family and stuff. So that was important, and it was it was a no-brainer as far as kind of when the idea was mentioned, and everybody was on board immediately, and it was kind of slightly, I guess, kind of, I was slightly nervous about kind of needing to go back and learn some songs that I hadn't played for about 15
Yeah.
years. There was an element of that to it, maybe, but no question, I was kind of in straight away. It was great to be back, with all the guys kind of in and around that, and because there was a period where I never thought kind of, I'd be likely to ever play with any of the guys again, so that was wonderful to kind of, to be, back around and it be kind of, everybody pretty much that had been part of Funeral. The only person who wasn't involved was Gareth, because he lives over in Vegas. So it's a bit difficult for him. But I mean, in there with Gav and Rich, the guys that kind of came in after kind of I left and Gareth left, and then kind of, and Ryan had left just after myself, and so drawing us all back into it, was great. And and I've always been friends with Rich and Gav, brilliant players, great guitarist, great bass player, and super lovely guys, you know what I mean, and definitely an integral part of the whole Funeral legacy, like I say, Gav, brilliant songwriters, and so they were a big part of it. So it was great to be on board with everyone, do you know what I mean, involved. And that was exciting, slightly nerve-wracking, like I say, relearning songs and that sort of stuff. But we got together for rehearsals, band alone to begin with, because Matt lives over in Germany, so he couldn't just come over constantly just to rehearse and things like that. Rehearsals were great fun, and we had a brilliant laugh, kind of going through the songs and just hanging out really. And then kind of when Matt managed to come over then, and we all rehearsed together again, had just a great time, in each other's company, and really enjoyed and had a good laugh, and it made us realize, I think, kind of, how much we'd missed being around one another, maybe, and hanging out together and playing music together. So out of the kind of the real kind of sad aspect of why we were doing it came that kind of positivity of us all coming together again, and that's kind of what spawned then kind of the idea of doing more than just the charity shows for Stu last year, and looking at doing some others, because there was so many people who were getting in contact and weren't able to make those shows, couldn't get a ticket, and because there was just the 3 shows. So
I'm not surprised.
They sold out so quick.
and you know what, we were so unsure of kind of how things would pan out really, and whether there was still enough love out there for the band to really want to clamber on board and be part of kind of coming to watch us again or whatever, no matter what the circumstances. So it was such an exciting kind of uplifting feeling that when those shows sold out immediately, and there was so many people kind of a bit pissed off that they couldn't get a ticket really, I guess. So hence kind of why the idea came around of, oh, maybe we should do some more, and then whoever wants to and missed this kind of doing those 3 shows, they'll have that opportunity. Plus we get to hang out together again and play play music together and just have a blast.
It's all a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And like I say, we were so uncertain of how much people cared anymore about the band, and we were so blown away and shocked at how many people who still have an awful lot of love for the band, the songs, and the support they've given us is absolutely amazing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, obviously, when you were playing your live shows, you've had generations now, more generations since you've been gone, where people have been getting into your band as well. Did you feel like a different atmosphere at your shows when you came back, like a lot more energy?
Yeah, for the first show anyway, and then by the second show we were all fucked. We just put far too much into the first show. But no, it was super exciting to kind of come out on stage that first show in Cardiff, and every night, to be honest, the crowd was amazing, just singing the songs so loud, and yeah, and it was almost kind of like 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 you just mentioned, it was that energy level kind of was there immediately, and it was so exciting to kind of be doing it again, and even though okay, I popped up on stage on the very last kind of tour of the band for a song, myself and Ryan did that, at a few of the shows, but in comparison to kind of coming out to play a full set, all of us on stage together, yeah, it was super exciting, and you did feel energized, and it felt like in some ways it felt like it was just yesterday that I kind of had stepped off the stage from playing with the guys. It was kind of like it just, I don't know, it was just stepping straight back in, to something so comfortable and just so much fun that kind of I kind of missed it massively, and it wasn't until kind of I walked on that stage that I truly realized that, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's what planted the seed for this tour that you've just sold out. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. That's sold out, which is kind of again, bonkers, because as I say, kind of still uncertain whether okay, we did the 3 shows, for Stu. That was really important to us. And then kind of, the idea of doing a little tour, kind of, again, we unsure kind of whether there be, people, they would, yes, people wanted to go to those shows. Was that a case of because of the reasons we were doing the shows, we weren't quite sure, but it was, again, unbelievable to put the tour on sale and it just kind of fly out, really. And and again, kind of, we were all kind of blown away, and we're so excited, kind of, and looking forward to that, you know what I mean? And sell out the show, so sell out those shows and that tour so quickly, it kind of, it gets you sort of just so massively kind of excited and really, and looking forward to that tour now, kind of next year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, it's going to be brilliant. We're going to have so much fun on that.
Do you think it'll be another one-off tour, or do you think there's a possibility of more shows after that? What do you think? There's a longer time scale of what you're looking at with Funeral, or do you think this is just going to be like a one-time thing, and then it's going to be go back to normal for a bit and then come back to it again at some time?
No, to be honest, I mean, we have got the download show, which I think is
I'll be there for that.
You are, yeah, awesome. Can't fault that. We got that booked in. But other than that, the idea is to just do this purely on the basis of we enjoyed ourselves so much kind of on those 3 shows, hanging out and being together and stuff, that we wanted to do this. And I think, that'll be the end of it. That will kind of, culminate kind of as the last thing we do. There's no plans to do anything else. There's no talk of ever doing, any more shows after that, so it will be the final thing, is what's kind of, planned. There's no kind of, nobody's going to mention about, maybe kind of revisiting it again, kind of, I don't know, it just gets sometimes, when you do stuff like that and keep kind of announcing that it's the final thing, and you keep coming back.
Becomes very Motley Crue all of a sudden.
And
Kiss, who've been doing the final tour since the 90s.
I mean, and I guess Sabbath kind of did it a few times as well. I think after a while, I think it starts to kind of annoy people a little, and they start to kind of see through the kind of I don't know, the whole final tour announcement sort of angle. So from our perspective, this is, it's planned as being that is going to be the end of it, and it's just going to be a big celebration of what we've done as a band, our songs, and in particular our audience and our fans, and kind of and anyone that's kind of ever supported us and come to shows, bought a record, or it's a massive kind of celebration of all that kind of really. So yeah, and I think kind of it'll be a brilliant way to kind of cap it all off in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say you've achieved what you was meant to achieve anyway, where you went to play shows with your mates, had a great time. You've managed to drag it out loads, and you managed to play some great shows, play in front of loads of fans who appreciate you coming back one more time, and mission accomplished. Side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's way back. It went way beyond, as cheesy as it sounds, any dreams we had as individuals or as a band. You know what I mean? It surpassed that kind of way back. When we were finding ourselves in situations of whether it be signing to a record company or signing to a major record company, doing tours with particular bands that we'd grown up loving, and just kind of touring pretty much all over the world, and having gold records and things like that. You know what I mean? It surpassed kind of any of our wildest dreams, really, way back. So yeah, it's nothing but kind of a case of kind of what a way to kind of finish it off in a sense.
I was going to say, throughout that journey, was there any for a better term, holy shit moments that you had where you was like, you just couldn't believe that it was happening? What kind of moments did you have throughout that whole period?
I mean, yeah, there's a number, probably absolute ton, really, to be honest, where you find yourself in company of certain people, or, I mean, we had situations where, not just the fact that we did a tour with Iron Maiden that, some of us in the band had to kind of, idolized since we were kids and kind of grew up kind of listening to, but we actually kind of, performed a song with Bruce Dickinson singing with us on it, a couple of times, which was
crazy.
Which was, I mean, we did his kind of his radio show on BBC, it's 6 Live, I think it was it?
Yeah,
I don't know if that's still happening or not. I'm not sure, but yeah, and he did a song with us in Maida Vale in the studio there. It was actually us and Raging Speedhorn kind of playing Black Sabbath and Bruce Dickinson on vocals with Matt, and that was crazy. And then we played in Belfast, a show with Therapy, actually, and that again was connected to his radio show, and he came up on stage and did a song with us and a song with Therapy, and looking across the stage with Bruce Dickinson singing with you is a pretty fucking mind-blowing situation. Yeah, so yes, that's just one instance I can think of off the top of my head, but there's many along the way, kind of, for sure. And yeah, and I feel totally kind of totally lucky, really, and fortunate to have kind of experienced a lot of that stuff, because as I say, as kids kind of growing up, we have these dreams of, when you start playing guitar, start listening to kind of music, even, and and learning to play, and then wanted to put a band together and write your own songs and stuff like that. I don't know, you have these crazy dreams of, I'd love to kind of, be touring the world and putting out records and all this sort of stuff. And I suppose to a certain degree in the back of your mind, you're also kind of pretty sure it won't ever happen. But weirdly, kind of, unfortunately, kind of, we found ourselves in that position where it did happen, and loved every minute of it. I mean, as much as kind of, you can, because there are kind of, sort of difficult and and hard kind of aspects to kind of to some of it as well, you know, and definitely kind of, you know, we had some kind of, you know, difficult kind of moments kind of, you know, through whatever that might be, touring and stuff like that, which becomes grueling to a certain degree when you're kind of, you know, bouncing back and forth tours and doing kind of months and months around America and things like that, you know. It's brilliant and great fun, and you live for the kind of, you know, playing the shows and stuff like that, and they are the, you know, the ultimately the best part kind of doing it. But it's all the traveling you have to go through to kind of, you know, to get that kind of, you know, hour or hour and a half or whatever it might be on stage. Yeah, which, you know, I you know, it's a bit of a cliche. A lot of people say that, but it is very true. You know, it's the traveling can become grueling, and, you know, and sometimes, you know, lack of sleep and all that kind of shit, you know, gets sometimes, you know, tough. But I suppose to a certain degree, all you got to do is kind of, you know, think long and hard about kind of, oh, I could be, you know, working in some factory right now, you know, fucking doing something really fucking mundane. So I think I'm pretty fucking fortunate here. So stop griping and fucking get on with it, you know.
How does it feel to be heading to download as well? To, you know, play it download again?
Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's amazing, you know, that Andy Coppin kind of was, you know, kind enough to invite us kind of, you know, well, and originally, you know, to do this year, but obviously because of, you know, aforementioned kind of reasons, we weren't able to do it this year. And luckily kind of, you know, he you know, said that he still wants to keep us on the bill for next year. And so yeah, we gladly accepted and really looking forward to it, because it's a brilliant festival. I mean, for kind of rock metal music, you know, it's got to be, you know, the best festival in the UK. You know what I mean?
It's like a pedestal, like, here is like, that is the.
I think even in the world, even people in the USA come over to go to Download Festival because it's one of the original, like, OG festivals for the rock scene anyway.
I think absolutely, you know, it's got such I mean, if you go back even sort of before it was called Download and it was kind of Monsters of Rock, I think it was. And you know, it's got that legacy kind of, you know, of always kind of putting together a brilliant festival, kind of, you know, full of, you know, the best bands in the world really at that kind of particular time and that particular year. You know, you'll see the best kind of, you know, lineup of bands within rock and metal and kind of, you know, and all that kind of, you know, area of music, I guess, at that festival. You know, you don't have to fucking go anywhere else really, you know what I mean? You can see everyone there that's kind of that's you know, that's killing it at the moment, you know, and brilliant up and coming bands and stuff like that, you know. So, you know, Andy does a fantastic job, I think, of kind of, you know, that festival every year. And and we're, you know, super happy and over the moon to kind of be going back there. I think it'll be the 5th time, maybe. Yeah, I think it may be the 5th time. Yeah. So really excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be great.
God, 5 times a download. Couldn't imagine it. It's mad.
That's why I am.
I was just taking that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I say, kind of, you know, I mean, I went to that festival, you know, and I don't know how many times before I had the opportunity to play it, you know what I mean? And again, it's one of those kind of dreams of, oh, I'd love to play here one day and be up on that stage or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder how many musicians that has inspired that festival.
Oh, you know,
thousands, you know.
If not millions, man, you know, even, you know, people kind of perhaps watching even footage online and whatever, or, you know, when they used to do kind of, you know, special programs dedicated to it and show kind of, you know, live sets from that place, you know. So, yeah, it's, you know, it's got that amazing legacy and kind of, and feel so proud to be part of that, really, I guess.
Should we get on to the first segment?
Yeah, I'm
We
not
do it.
sure if we've warned you about our reoccurring
You haven't? No,
segments.
no, hang on.
Sorry,
no, hang
that was
on.
down to me.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
Hang on. My signal's going. Hang on.
So, first segment on the podcast, because we're a horror music podcast, we asked you, what is your favourite scary movie, if you have one?
Oh, right. Okay.
It's not a problem if you're not a fan of horror either.
Yeah.
Do you know what I do? I do like horror movies. Not so much kind of a lot of the modern kind of ones, really.
That tends to be a theme.
Yeah, I definitely kind of end up going back to kind of movies such as kind of Halloween, the first couple of Halloween movies, or The Exorcist. The Exorcist is also an amazing movie. Okay, it's kind of such a long time ago, and you watch it now, and to all intents and purposes, the effects may not be kind of that brilliant, but nevertheless, kind of it's the ambience and the kind of and the vibe and the suspense that kind of some of those movies could create. I thought, that's kind of where it beats a lot of the more modern day kind of horror movies, I think.
I think it's the use of practical effects more than anything, because when I think of The Exorcist, I think the majority of it actually still holds up, because when you look at the makeup on obviously Reagan from that film, the makeup is still fucked up. Like, you look at it, you go, oh, it's not like you can go, that's from the 70s. That it's one of them rare occasions where you can look at something and go, that would still hold up today. So with it being that they're actually rebooting it for next year, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Interesting what they're going to do with it now.
I look forward to kind of checking that out. I mean, I think kind of the more modern kind of ones, they relying on the CGI heavily and that sort of stuff, and sometimes you can just kind of, I don't know, see I don't know how kind of digital the effect may be, or I don't know, like you say, kind of those natural kind of man-made effects or makeup and stuff like that. Just they just have that kind of more realistic vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's the digital stuff. You can sort of see through it, and you can see. I call it cheap horror, because I always look at
absolutely,
things like Paranormal Activity or anything just with a loud, distorted noise just to scare the shit out of me. I can discount that. I can just say, well, it's a loud noise. I'm not bothered. But The Exorcist, I'll never forget the first time I watched that. Shit myself. Yeah. Not literally, but
That's it. No, it's messy when you shit yourself. Definitely, but like I just said, it does. It manages to create that suspense and that great ambience that, I don't know, that really puts you on the edge of your seat before anything kind of jumps out, or anything. I don't know, some loud bang or whatever. They seem to have that kind of bit more class to them, I guess.
Yeah,
it's crazy. In the 70s, people were passing out watching that film in the cinemas. Like, people were walking out, or passing out, which is weird, because, like you said, when you look at it now, that wouldn't have the same effect on people. We've become so desensitized to like everything we see. It's just like, that doesn't shock us anymore. Like, we need. It's weird. That's where you got things like Saw, where you know what I mean, where people are being put in traps, because that's how bad it's got. We're that desensitized to it. We've got to see people getting tortured on screen.
They take it to that extreme level of gore now, where it kind of like you say, because everyone's so desensitized to brutality and brutal horrific acts of whether it be violence or whatever. But they take it to the furthest extremes now, and I don't know, kind of it sort of cheapens the movies maybe a little, in the more modern ones, I guess.
Yeah, go on.
I was just saying, I think we're all in agreement that we prefer. I know us three prefer the slasher, like
the Friday the 13th movies, and like I say, the Halloween and I don't know, Nightmare on Elm Street and you know, and all those, you know, those
Even-
absolute classics.
Even like paranormal stuff back then, like The Shining is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
playing on your
absolutely.
mind, whereas now it's just trickery. Would you say
Yeah.
The Exorcist is your favorite, or
I would say
if I had to tell you to pick one?
if I had to pick one, I'll go for Halloween, the original Halloween. Even though
Yes.
I did see sort of, I did see sort of Rob Zombie's remakes of them, and to be honest, you know, they weren't bad. You know, they weren't. I
It's
mean,
a different take on it, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I liked it.
not as good as kind of the originals, because
Nah.
I think whenever they try and remake, I think I don't know, they're in a really tough battle to begin with before they even kind of
100%. Yeah.
put it out there. You know what I mean? When you're taking on a classic kind of horror movie like some of those ones from the sort of 80s and stuff. Yeah, you know, you're fighting a bit of a losing battle in a way.
Yeah.
But I didn't think he did a too bad a job. You know, with his couple of movies he made in the series of Halloween movies. You know, but like you say, different take on it. It wasn't really a remake. It was a different angle to it, I suppose, wasn't it?
I did read at one point John Carpenter said to Rob Zombie, "Make it your own."
Ah,
When
right,
he
okay,
found out he
yeah.
was doing it, and when you watch them, I completely agree. Like, he did do that. He made it his own.
Yeah, he didn't do, you know, which sadly, you know, some movies do, not necessarily just in the horror genre, but in maybe sort of, you know, some of the other remakes they do from kind of way back, some other classic movies, and they'll practically copy them sort of scene for scene and shot for shot, won't they? You know, and I just think kind of, what's the point in that? Okay, it might be in kind of HD or 4K or 4K now or something. So the picture's sharper, but shit, you know, we've already seen all these kind of scenes and shots in the original. So why bother kind of repeating them, innit?
People are scared of risk. That's all it is. Did you watch the 2018 Halloween yet?
2018? No, I don't think so. Which one was that? I wasn't.
It was Halloween, but Jamie Lee Curtis came back, and they've sort of discounted all the terrible sequels they did, and it just goes Halloween,
straight
the 78 one to the 2018 one.
Because she made, was it the first two she made? Was it?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Because one of them then went really off track, didn't it?
Number 3,
third one, it was Season of the Witch or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally kind of off track that one, didn't it? But yeah, the first two, she was in those, wasn't she? So no, I haven't seen the 2018 though.
That's
one with
an
her in it.
excuse to force you back.
Yeah, get on it, man.
Yeah, somebody's getting kind of a bit kind of, I don't know, thin on the money sort of side of things. Are they?
We've got to need it, you know. Haven't they?
Yeah, and that's the issue with kind of sometimes, you know, a lot of the remakes or kind of, you know, or the sequels that come kind of, you know, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years after the original.
Yeah.
It's kind of milking it when it's, you know, it's gone, it's too late, you know, kind of leave things alone, kind of, you know, from where they were, you know what I mean? You don't have to kind of, you know, go and do a sequel to everything, you know.
No,
I will say this 2018 one, it's given me hope for like the remakes coming up, like the
okay,
spoke about. I think it's a very good film.
I need to kind of have a look at that, and then definitely, yeah.
Let us know what you think of it if you do.
Will do, yeah, definitely, man, yeah. But I'll pick, you know, as my pick though for, you know, horror movie, it's gonna have to be the original.
Nice,
you know, because
There we go. All right, next segment. So we do 2. So this is the last segment that we do. So it is, what is your pet peeve? So the rules are that you can pick whatever you want, whatever pisses you off. Does it have to be to do with music? Does it have to be to do with horror? You pick the topic and then we discuss it.
Pisses you off the most?
What pisses me off the most?
Day-to-day things.
This is always hard for people from Wales because they're too nice.
Oh shit. It's kind of put me on the spot a bit.
Sorry about that.
So no, it's fine.
We've had things like slow walkers. We've had one where people say when they bite the fork when they're eating the food. Like that was one. You know what I mean? Just really, you can be really.
Oh,
petty.
right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that
Really
grinds.
really petty shit, like, is
Yeah.
it?
It can
Yeah.
be podcasters. It can be.
Oh, yeah. They are the worst, those guys.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Kind of, if we're going to kind of think of something online, something that I find kind of extraordinary, but also kind of quite annoying, is the people, for instance, on Facebook or whatever it may be, that project to everybody, who knows them, their friends or whatever, or, that they have this perfect life through their
Yeah.
pictures or their
Yeah.
posts or whatever, that they had this perfect life and, it can't get much better. And some of those people you might know, and they haven't got a perfect life, and that kind of a lot of aspects of their life is quite shit, actually. Yet they want to portray it as this absolutely amazing, perfect life, and it's not true. So so that's something that kind of does peeve me, I suppose, to a certain extent. Yeah.
Yeah. It is quite sad, isn't it, really, when people because I know a lot of people, obviously, that do it. You see them on Instagram posting God knows what every day, do you know what I mean? And like you said, it's clearly all fake. And it's one of those things, we're in them times now where people are just trying to compete with each other all the time, aren't they?
Yeah, it's almost kind of like, I don't know, everything's got to be sort of just brilliant in their life to to really kind of impress people in some manner or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one for posting absolute ton on social kind of media or anything anyway, but like I say, I find kind of people that pretend that kind of their life kind of is more than it is, and you only ever see kind of, I don't know, pictures of them kind of at some amazing kind of idyllic kind of places around the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't, and they don't share, I don't know, the reality of their life, which kind of, I don't know, that might be for just a week or 2 weeks of the year, whereas kind of the other kind of 50 weeks of the year, they're fucking slogging their guts off out in kind of, a job that kind of, and that they're not happy about and they hate, and kind of, and traveling back and forth on the train or some shit like that, you know what I mean? And, but yet they want everybody else to think that kind of, their life is almost like a jet set kind of exciting, kind of brilliant life. And it's like I say, it peeves me to a certain extent, but it's also, it's something I find that's quite sad, that they gotta pretend to be something.
I think
to feel, to want to, to get people to, I don't know, give them a like or kind of, I don't know, comment nicely about them or something like that,
Yeah, I think if you can see through that and see what they're doing, it's quite upsetting to see that that's how they live. And I think it's something that we see in social media that sort of leads to people being depressed because they're now comparing themselves to something that is absolutely fake.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and that's the thing, they have this kind of, this imaginary almost lifestyle to a certain degree, or the one that they portray online. But really they're unhappy in life, and which, like you say, can lead to, that depression kind of aspect of, that, or mental health issues in some way, because they know deep down that they haven't really got that life, you know what I mean? And yet they yearn for that life, obviously.
Yeah.
But they don't have it. And I can imagine it kind of getting people sort of, very down and depressed and disappointed kind of how their lives have turned out, maybe. But they need to kind of, keep face to a lot of others online by, like I say, putting up these posts regularly and pictures of them always kind of out dining somewhere, or I don't know, just always very sometimes luxurious kind of looking kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
When that isn't the reality of their life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I might be absolutely wrong on this, but I believe that Australia did a test run where they did Instagram where there was no likes. So essentially, it was you posted your picture or whatever, people could comment on it, but you couldn't see how many people liked it.
Yeah, you couldn't see other
Okay.
people's likes.
I'd love to see how that would work because I think people would be so much more honest if there wasn't this whole thing of likes and
Yeah,
that they
absolutely.
based how good they were at life or achieving life if they didn't have actual likes on the post and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting study for sure, and I'd be quite intrigued to sort of see how that would pan out, and then kind of like you say, kind of would that make them adjust kind of how honest and truthful they're being with their posts or their pictures or whatever. I mean, because of course there are people around the world, and many of them that live luxurious lifestyles and kind of and have these jet set lives. Of course there are people like that, but when people that don't have that lifestyle yet they portray it that way online, that's the thing that I mean, I don't live a luxurious lifestyle, and I don't pretend to kind of that I do, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? But there's just so many that almost kind of feel like that they won't be liked, or they won't have so many friends or people interested in them if they don't portray their lives that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's upsetting, really.
It is, yeah. It's quite sorry to bring this fucking somber, this dark vibe to the show.
Bringing it down.
Yeah, I've fucking brought it right down now. Yeah. Apologies for that.
No, it's true though.
The truth.
But but there we go. That's my peeve off the top of my head. There's probably plenty more, but on the spot, kind of that's my peeve of the week.
It's a good peeve, yeah.
It's a good peeve. It's a good peeve to dig into. Now, just to obviously quickly notice that we've not mentioned the 501s, just to quickly talk about that. Yeah. Apologies that we haven't. I'm just
no, it's cool. It's cool. I mean,
just to quickly talk about it then. So you guys have just recently got a new drummer, and that you're teasing new. When are we expecting to hear more about that?
Right. So just got a new drummer, Adam. On board. To be honest, we filmed a video right before lockdown, and we've been waiting on kind of the director to kind of edit it because he couldn't get into editing suite and stuff like that. So we've had to kind of pretty much wait for a good few months for it. So that should drop around about, we're hoping, sort of end of September, maybe beginning of October. So so you're going to see some new music from us, and which includes a video, like I say. We're having some beautiful kind of 7-inch vinyls pressed up for it as well, because we continue kind of the theme that kind of our last single had. It's looking good. So we're excited about that, and to get that that stuff out there, and and try and kind of push on after this unexpected interval of a number of months that kind of threw out quite a number of our plans, in a sense. I mean, obviously the song would have been out a lot sooner. We would have played a bunch of shows we had lined up, and a few festivals and things like that, and all that kind of went down the drain. So we're looking more now towards kind of next year, because I think that's when it's likely to open up in as far as playing live shows. And and we're gonna do plenty of kind of gigs and shows and stuff next year, and so we're looking towards that. But we want to keep things rolling. We got just finishing off a couple of cool acoustic kind of versions of some older songs as well. Nice. Like reinterpreted those. So just finishing off those as well. So yeah, we got a bunch of stuff coming up, like I say, kind of over, you know, the next few months and towards the end of the year, you know, which we're excited about and looking forward to.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys out anyway next year.
Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, like I say, kind of, you know, I've pretty much mainly played shows in Wales up till now, since I've been in the band anyway, you know. So yeah, we're looking to kind of, you know, stretch out a bit further and and get around kind of the UK at least, kind of, you know, playing some shows and and having a bit of fun.
Absolutely. And even if you play more shows in Wales, we're due a road trip anyway, so we might take a trip to Wales.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
There you go. Sorry.
Hey, it's the place to be, man. It's all in the water, as we said.
That's it. I just need to
come drink our water. Come drink some of that water. We got tons of it in the taps. There's loads of it. You know?
Well, Darren, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a privilege. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate kind of you know, you guys asking me to come on board, and I've really enjoyed it, man. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you. How nice was he? Oh, such a nice man. Such a nice dude. Anyway, thank you for listening to episode 39 of this podcast. If you haven't already, check out all the previous episodes. But otherwise, over to you, Mike.
Yeah, make sure you check out the 501s on Spotify and YouTube. The latest EP is out called The Enemy Within, and make sure you check out the new singles that are upcoming as well.
Oh, hi, listener. Someone at the end of the podcast.
Hello.
I need more stuff to listen to. How about Just a Girl Podcast and Karma Radio? You can find Just a Girl Podcast on all podcasting platforms, but try Acast because I prefer it. And go listen to Karma Radio on Spotify. And like I said at the beginning, if you like us, we've got 38 other episodes to have a gander at. Other than that, we'll see you in 2 weeks probably. Thanks.